Right.
I'm going to start singing.
A warning, I can't sing a note.
No, neither can I, but why
We
not?
might not need water if we want to start singing. So, first of all, thank you very much for coming and for accepting this. It's
for
really
having us.
exciting for me, and it's an honor in a way. Before we dive into, in a way, what we do in the industry, I just wanted to lightly open it up just to see, for those of the people that won't be watching this. Obviously, we have Lisbel and Angela. I might use my Italian accents because I might say your surname has a bit of an Italian heritage to it.
Yeah, via marriage. I'm definitely British, but yeah, my husband grew up in Sardinia.
Where about?
Alghero.
I'm from Arzachena.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
from Sardinia.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So, as I said, as I want to start this on a light note, tell me, Liz, I'll start from you just because
Okay.
I'm facing you.
Yeah.
What drew you into this industry?
Ooh, that is a good question, especially because it was so long ago now. So I was always really interested in design. You know, as a child, I designed my own bedroom and like changed it all up. And I used to draw. I went through a phase of like drawing my friends' like most like best houses, and you know, one was like a castle, and one was really modern, and one was this, that, and the other. And so I was always sort of interested in architecture and interior design. When I went to university, I studied architecture. But I sort of forgot about this. But when I was choosing what I wanted to do, I was very much like, do I want to do architecture or do I want to do interior design? And I was really like, oh my God, I don't know which to do. And I think I ended up doing architecture because I figured I could pivot more easily than pivoting the other way. So that's why I did that. And then after doing the degree, I decided I didn't want to do architecture and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went travelling for what was supposed to be 6 months and ended up being 3 years. And then I came back to the UK thinking, oh my God, I must start a career now. And so I just applied for like anything that was architecture or interior design or project management based, and got my role at Absolute Project Management as an assistant. And it was just me and the founder, Kat, at the time. And so I progressed really quickly working for a small business, learned all the different aspects of residential renovation. And because of my background, we already did a bit of interior design, but we really pushed that side of it, I guess, with my pushing and, egging on. Mm-hmm. And then once I was fairly experienced, I discovered the BIID because obviously I knew about the RIBA through mm-hmm. my architecture degree, and I really wanted an equivalent because all my friends were becoming registered, and anytime, I met up with them, they were all just like, oh, what do you do? And sort of assumed that I plumped cushions or, did some
kind of felt
curtains.
the pressure in a way. What do I do?
Yeah. So I wanted to, I guess, prove that, was what I did was valuable and professional and actually took a lot of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So I discovered the BIID and then became registered in 2019 and immediately joined the professional practice committee, which then pivoted into the sustainability committee, and then I joined council, and now I'm president-elect. So it's just sort of snowballed. But I would say I'm really interested in design. I'm really interested in the construction industry. I find it really fascinating. I actually quite enjoy structural things as well. I wouldn't dabble in it. I'm not a structural engineer, but I love having the conversations with structural engineers and working out how things work. So
tapping on that, that's also it's one of those things that I think a lot of, I'd say colleagues in the industry might tend to overlook, because I've seen it in a couple of projects where elements such as build-ups or web beams were running or levels and depth of elements and so on and so forth were completely ignored, and come to realize something. when it's basically halfway through the actual construction stages,
Yeah, and then
something
you've got a
doesn't
problem.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to, well, actually, we've got a project at the moment where we're putting underfloor heating everywhere. And we're spending quite a lot of time trying to work out what's under the existing floors so that we can like pull it out and go under rather than raising the floor right up again. So
yeah, it's one of
important
those things. I had a project in Surrey where part of the conversation that we were having with the client, considering that, let's say, the right wing of the house was raised for some reason, like the entire floor was on one level, and then these two rooms just 150 mil higher. No reasons whatsoever, considering that underneath that there was just simply a void. So it's having that conversation with the structural engineer that, in my opinion, as a professional, we should also be able to advise the clients on what to do. And in that specific case, the conversation with the structural engineer went on to, can we do beams and blocks? Something the client wasn't aware that method even existed. Because he was saying to me, well, what I've done in my previous house, I just filled all of that space with concrete. And I was like,
that's a lot of concrete.
That's cost a fortune.
Yeah.
So that's basically where I agree. The structural elements and how needs to be also be looked at.
Yeah.
From your point of view, what drew you in?
So I think from my perspective, I've been really lucky in that I've always known from quite an early age what I wanted to do. It's probably, influenced by all those 90s TV shows. But I've taken a different path to Liz. So at 16, you get your National Record of Achievement. I've still got it, and I've written myself the letter that I want to be an interior designer. And and kind of gone a sort of meandering path to get there. But I did great in my GCSEs, and then really tanked out on my A-levels, and thought that was it for me. Thought, I was given some bad advice. Thought that that was it, and I went and started training to be a dispensing optician at 17.
Wow.
And then I was really unhappy, sort of in retail, and I went and saw a careers advisor, and she was like, this isn't over. You don't have to stop at all just because you didn't mount your art A-level very well.
Yeah.
And so I took a summer job and worked on a portfolio, and then got accepted onto a HND at the Batley School of Art, and did that. So I was a year behind traditional sort of progress, but I did that for 2 years, and did my cities and guilds in AutoCAD and worked my way through. And I was living away from home, so that was a huge life experience as well, and it kind of made me realise that this was what I wanted to do. But I'd always been more interested in commercial properties.
Right.
I really like the link between how space can impact employees and make work life better, and also at the end of the day make a business some money. So I like that relationship between that trifecta of things, and so that's always kind of been my passion. And then I went back home and did my degree, and then so did a degree in interior design, and then really did the same thing as Liz, like, oh my God, I need a job. So I did lots of weird little things to start
At some point we all have to panic for that reason anyway.
So I started off in a CAD office in Blackburn. Just literally.
What you started with? What AutoCAD?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I can't remember, but yeah, I was just literally drafting every day, 8 hours a day. So it was a great foundation. Getting these, hand-drawn surveys from surveyors that would go out and then come in and draw it all and try and decipher them.
Gosh, that's so hard. I mean, even deciphering our own plans when we do them on site, I'm just like, what have I written there? Like,
I know.
Yeah, it's how I was taught, basically. When I was still studying, the first thing for me was just, and this was obviously my professor, that he wanted really all of us to use our hands. And I don't know if you ever use those pens, but rotary pens.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I still love them.
Yeah.
On loosey paper that you then needed to...
I was still taught to draft with, silk glove and tracing paper, working left to right and then up to down. when I did work experience, they still had a old die line machine, proper blueprints. So yeah, I'm quite old.
Well,
actually, I learned
I've done that.
draw properly as well.
Yeah, but it's I think it's a good experience for me. If you and to that I can probably touch on to AI, I guess. Those are tools, and unless you can actually visualize and understand what you are trying to achieve, right now I think with things being so quick to and available to everyone, really, that. And this is why I wanted to touch on AI, considering that anybody can do a drawings right now. It's, I know, but is having to learn really what it actually takes and all the effort and the mistakes that you have to make, and that you have to be more careful in what you design, because otherwise it's going to cost you another 3 hours worth of work instead of just deleting a line and trims and sorts it.
Yeah.
How do you see the industry or the design industry moving forward with the advance of AI now, obviously, with ChatGPT and Midjourney and all the other tools?
Yeah.
I think there's still a verification process. You know, the skills and are changing. People need to, be able to keep up the pace to remain commercially viable and use these tools in the right way. But I think using them as a layperson can be quite dangerous. When you think about legal and safety ramifications, there's a lot of responsibility on interior designers and architects. And, I'm all for doing something smart and quick and getting it done, but also making sure that there's, I work for a large multidisciplinary company. We have a quality assurance process that everything goes through. So I think that net is ultimately what they're paying for to reduce risk, especially on big projects. But there's no, you don't legally have to be an architect to submit your drawings for your house. That's not a requirement in the UK. I understand, budgets are tight and people want to think, well, I'll do this myself. There's a self-build community out there that do that successfully. But I think it's knowing when the risk is too great to bring in the experts and to balance that off, especially sort of more for residential side of things. Yeah. Definitely don't recommend it on the commercial side.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of a challenge. What I found is that with the advance of AI, obviously, and as I said, it's a tool, and a lot of people don't recognize it and don't see it as a tool. They see it as a solution rather than just something that can help understanding more than anything else. And I've had clients coming to me, I've done this, that, and the other with ChatGPT, and they come out with these nice images. They're not great, especially with ChatGPT. Yeah. And it's really hard for sometimes get them to understand that what they've, even just the prompt they gave them, is not necessarily achievable. And the image they get that they receive, there's so much that goes behind it that is just not being considered, because at the end of the day, is not an expert.
Yeah, and also, AI is global. It's not, you're not going to be able to say, I want this design, and it's going to then reference, building regulations in the UK. We would have that problem with Pinterest before AI was a big thing, and people were like, I want this exact thing on Pinterest. And you're like, okay, well, that is lovely, but that is a floating stair and there's no banisters, and you definitely need banisters. And you definitely can't have the gaps between the stairs because you have a toddler and it's going to be really dangerous. And they're like, well, someone's done it. Like, yes, but like we don't know where that was. That could have been anywhere where they don't have regulations, or maybe they do and someone's ignored it.
Finishing, or maybe they edited the images.
Yeah, exactly. So that's tricky. I think, the other way that AI is changing our industry that is, I find quite concerning, is that a lot of, established designers are using AI to be more commercial, and, they might try and reduce the time it takes to put together concept boards, for example, by using AI. And I think there's a lot of value in that. But then those are the kind of jobs that you would give to someone at the entry level. And so you're taking away that opportunity for someone to get experience. And so I think we have to be really mindful, as employers or people that are established in the industry, you know, you need to, of course, you need to be commercially viable. You need to make sure that your clients are getting good value for money. But I mean, we have a great team, and I think it's really valuable to have people learning as you go. And a lot of the time that they would spend, you know, initially designing, you know, we sort of write that time off as them learning. And I think there's a huge amount of value in that as a business, because, you know, now I've got an excellent team that are all really trained. I can give them something, they know what to do. And of course, all of us are still learning, and we still do CPDs in-house. But I think, you know, I wouldn't want AI to take away all of those opportunities. So I think AI is great, but it just needs to be used really carefully.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do use it. The way I use ChatGPT mainly, it's as an assistant to write reports. But ChatGPT doesn't know what I'm talking about. The way I need to write the reports, and I need to come up with a prompt, and I write down everything that basically happens on site, for example, on a specific site visit. And I do, so this week happened A, B, C, D, next week is happening 1, 2, 3, 4. Financial aspect, this is where we are. But all of that is a combination of work that I've already done.
Yeah.
And I basically just, instead of spending 3 hours writing a report, it takes me half an hour.
Yeah.
But it's that process of learning. And then I obviously have to check it. It's that learning process that you're absolutely right with, the fact that to be able to be commercially viable, you are actually taking away the learning process and the education behind the profession. And, you know, what's the new designer or the new interior designer going to be?
Yeah.
I think it's really, you know, that this comes up a lot, you know, when competitions, I have a strong feeling about, you know, running competitions, etc. And, you know, quite often there's that entry level, you know, they're burnt through to, you know, deliver, you know, work till 2 a.m. and deliver all this, and they're used as a, you know, to get these competitions out for large practices. And, you know, it's not healthy, it's not great for them, and they see it as this opportunity. But really, you know, AI taking over it in that instance, I can understand why that might even the playing field from smaller practices to larger practices, and actually be healthier for some of the graduates. But, you know, there's no need to have 100 options. You know, we should be, you know, designing, you know, in context against a brief. It's not just iteration for iteration because we can, doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
And then I think, you know, we talked before about, you know, all the sustainable aspect of just really, you know, all those images are stored somewhere in a data center somewhere, and there is a, you know, environmental impact with AI as well. So I think the way you described using it is certainly how I use it. I've got a pile of information and I want the highlights. I'll stick it into our internal, you know, closed AI, stick it in, and I've not had to spend, you know, 10 hours reading a 60-page document or whatever. It's giving me the highlights, and I can make a very quick business decision on whether I'm going to actually spend more time on it, for example. So I think it's got loads of value for speeding up busy tasks, but I completely agree with Liz. We shouldn't forget that, you know, people that are coming up through the ranks need experience. They need prompt skills. They need those skills too, because that's their future. But I don't think there's anything wrong with them learning a manual way of doing things.
I agree, and that really brings me back to the experience that in a way you can only get on site. Because things, it's easier on paper, but once you design something and then you need to check it, you know, if you have an AI that tells you just to go back to that images of the stairs that don't really comply, and you say, but this is, you know, someone did it, it doesn't mean you can have it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's real.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't, you know, you would look really bad if you went on site and someone asks you a question about how it's built, and if you've designed it on AI, you know, how embarrassing would it be if you had to be like, just give me a second, and then you're like,
this is where
asking
I think
AI how to fix
anyone that uses AI really from that point of view, I would, and as I said, I don't really do design with any of the AI tools at the moment. I don't know if I'll ever use it for design purposes. I think I'd struggle based on the view that I have or the design that I'm trying to achieve or how a site is actually working and so on and so forth. But the way I think it could be used in a positive way is if, for example, let's say you're a creative director and then you have an idea and you can actually come up with a prompt and everything else that gives you that image right away instead of having to spend time on a 2D and then 3D's rendering and so on and so forth. You can come up with the images, but then with the same image, you still need to think, right, let's say this is a stainless steel structure. What kind of brackets do I need to use to fix it? What kind of paneling actually am I be able to build?
It's a starting point, isn't it? It's a launch pad for an idea. It's not a final solution. And I think that bit in the middle sometimes gets lost, especially for clients. But, you know, sometimes extracting a brief from a client can be difficult and they don't know what they want. So I think sometimes to help them feel involved and, you know, you can help direct them to somewhere, well, you know, you can imagine you're on your 5th iteration and then you're not quite getting it, then maybe it does have a place to help them feel part of that journey with some guidelines that it's a kick-off point and it's a starting point to try and get them where they want to be. Yeah.
Obviously, I've left school a long time ago. But is AI being taught in schools at the moment? Or is...
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I read about the issues that graduates are facing, particularly in the job market as well. You know, employers are putting out a job description and then using AI to narrow those down. I can understand why, you know, if you're getting thousands of applicants. But then, you know, I hear that apparently people are putting in white in their CV, you know, like basically the keywords from the job description so that they get picked up by AI, which is very clever. So great that they have realised that or been taught it. But, you know, the students that haven't been taught that are then going to be left by the wayside and they might be excellent. So it's... Yeah, it's a really tricky thing. And I think, you know, if universities aren't embracing it, you know, and trying to give their graduates or their students as much knowledge as possible to get jobs or, you know, use those tools.
Then
education is
best practice and you know, ethics around AI and you know, I think it needs to be instilled now. I mean, my daughter's 15 and she did some work experience and the grads that I've got on our grad scheme now were just like, this is scary. She's got an iPad and she, in 10 minutes on a £10 app, she's created a 3D model that would have taken me a week.
Yeah.
Like, they are super fast and they are, what's the end goal and what is the fastest way to get there? And some of what we talked about earlier does worry me because they are very instant in, you know, goal driven and the detail can fall by the wayside. But yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, the process will get quicker, but in doing so, we need to make sure we're still compliant.
And even if you'll be able to make something that's so quick, really is, it begs the question how much you're actually caring of what you're doing and how much passion you're putting into really whatever job you at the end of the day you're doing. And it's something, and at least in my personal experience, it's something that whenever I deal with a client, if there's that disconnect between what you actually learn and what you're trying to deliver to, oh, this is how it's done, I'm not going to even explain how that works because this is full stop. There is no educational process in a way, in the way that if someone can do something so quick that obviously takes a week, it's, again, that learning process that is just going away. And the attention to details and really being able to deliver your vision is not really your vision at the end of the day, what I think.
Yeah.
It's just being done by somebody else or something else.
Yeah, it's interesting about the emotional connection to a design. And maybe, you know, that's... I mean, I have done residential in the past and, you know, I think there is more of a emotional connection to your clients. It's, you know, it's very personal. You're creating their home or, you know, something that's very close, the space that's very close to them that they're going to live and breathe in. And that's, I'd say there's less of a connection, you still care about your clients, and you want the employees and the end users to have an amazing experience, or it might be the public have amazing experience, and that has a slightly different relationship. But I wouldn't say it means you care less, and I don't think, the ideas can come from anyone and they can come quick, and sometimes they, you can get, the equivalent of writer's block, right? And it takes ages to come up with that solution. And sometimes you're just like, this is happening and everyone's happy and it's all going well.
It's a win-win.
What's happening? When's it going to go wrong?
I'm not sure what's
why is this why is this going well?
And so I think, I don't think that the length of time it takes, regardless of how it's created, is necessarily equivalent to the connection designers have with their project and their clients and that relationship. But yeah, they are like little babies we give birth to each project. You create them as, a team all work together, there's a camaraderie there, and you're delivering something, a physical thing that's there that for everybody to see in some instances. So, I think that team spirit is important, and delivering something together as a team, it's a common goal. And that's part of the fun for me, working together as a team to deliver something that has a positive impact on someone else.
Yeah,
I agree, especially because when I started, my father, basically the way he taught me how to design things was, when you're designing something, it doesn't necessarily has to be with what you like, because even if something that you like, great, and the client accepts it, but you have to visualize yourself as if you're living in that place, as if it's your own, and what sort of that place is giving you, whether it's back home, we've done hotels, we've done obviously flats or apartments, we've done individual houses, and every single time I've approached the design was, right, I'm entering this home or this place, what do I want to see, how do I want to feel, what does it give me? And for me, that was a bit of a valuable lesson in a way, because I'm not just designing something for the sake of designing it, but it's something that I sometimes struggle to see. A client just the other day, I was having a meeting with them, and I took on board this project quite late because it's more than 50% was done. They had some issues and so on and so forth. But as we took over, there was no design elements at all. They had a little bit of a 2D and some white 3D models done, but there was no FF&E, there was just mood boards. And as I was guiding her through, and really the only thing she said to me was, what I'm trying to achieve is a Californian-style house in London. I was like,
okay. That's an easy brief.
But even with just those little things, and I was actually been lucky enough to, last year I have done a house for 2 clients from California.
Oh,
so
cool.
I was lucky in that
Yeah.
aspect. But something that we were talking about, as I was just selecting a few things that could have tied into what she had in mind, at the end of the meeting, she said to me, Simona, you're really good at this. I was like, well, I'm just doing my job. And she went, well, you'd be surprised, because the people that we had been in touch with before couldn't advise to the extent that you are advising us at the moment. And that really got me thinking, why? Is it because the client seems fine?
Yeah.
Really. They travel a lot. Sometimes it's hard to speak to them or connect to them, but that's the life, obviously, they live. And we, as the professional and the advisor, we have to adapt in my way. But that comment, obviously, is very fulfilling, and it's a really good compliment. But at the same time, it kind of begged the question, considering that this project has been going on for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And could have been completed in 8 months. So it's that aspect of being a professional, being an advisor, that I think could be curated a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah, I guess, with education, I think, there's so much focus on the design and design development, and there is a lot of value in that, but actually a huge amount of what we do is communicating. And if you can't communicate your design clearly, or if you can't communicate well enough to figure out exactly what the client actually wants, you know, and develop their brief, because you always have to develop the brief. The client, you know, they come with, you know, one idea, and then after a few discussions, it might actually morph into something else, or they have lots of ideas and a small budget, and, you know, you have to work out with them what's actually achievable and what's going to get them the best result for them and their budget. And so there's a lot of, well, quite difficult conversations that really do need to happen, ideally at the start, for it to be as efficient as possible.
I agree. Cool. And the contract as well that you use, you know, you need to, you know, there's a lot of information as well for clients on the BIID website as well, and, you know, picking someone reputable, and actually as a client, you know, being brave enough to interview a few people and understand, you know,
and ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions and make sure that it's a close relationship, and and making sure that actually, you know, you are going to get on, and that you're clear as a client what you need, and you might not have the full breadth of knowledge of everything you need, and that's effectively what you're paying for. So, you know, and then from the other side, the designers need to have that confidence to be able to stretch them and help them understand the risks involved. And if you do this now, then actually, you know, I know you've said you want to do it later, but maybe we put the infrastructure in for it now, so it'd be easy to do, and it's not going to be expensive to do later. And that gives you some options, but obviously you've got to pay up front for that. And having, you know, these really open conversations with them, and having that, I guess it comes with the experience, and helping the client on a journey, because they're employing you because they don't know what they need, and you're there to fill that gap.
Yeah, exactly. And since we're circling back, obviously, to the BIID, how is the BIID helping the designers, basically, that are coming aboard, especially the new ones that are becoming members?
Yeah, so we have an amazing community of designers from a really broad range of backgrounds, you know, from individuals, you know, one-person practices, you know, all the way up to, you know, someone like myself who works, you know, globally. I think there's 1,200 interior designers at Jacobs. And I think, you know, we offer mentor schemes to help people progress through the pathway, so that they can really actually get on and network, come to events, and build those connections with like-minded peers. You know, like, I don't do resi anymore, but if I had a question, I could ring Liz and say, Liz, I have no idea what I'm doing, because I think people forget that interior design is such a broad, faceted career and discipline overall, and there's, you know, many nuances to it. And I think just kind of saying that out loud, and that being okay, and realising that you might need a specialist in one area or something else, you know, I'm like, oh, I need a wallpaper, and they're like, oh, I never go to Chelsea Harbour, you know, I live in Clerkenwell. And actually, you know, being part of the BIID's opened my eyes to sort of, you know, other suppliers, and using that network in a positive way. And I think you need to get in at the start, so that as you go through your career, you kind of grow up with the other people, and them growing up with their career, and you build this kind of industry network that's positive. And I think that's a big shift in interiors. I think women in construction, historically, you know, you got to a more senior position, you were there to defend it and protect it. And so historically, maybe you know, my experience was that knowledge and information wasn't necessarily passed on, because these positions were few and far between, and people had, you know, worked really hard to get them. But now it's just so much more open, and, you know, I try to give back as much as possible, especially doing this role. And it's lovely to see young people, and I've had so many young people come up to me at the events the BIID's hosted, and, you know, rather nervously ask me a question, and, you know, it's lovely actually to be able to try and answer them to the best of my ability. But I do think that industry peer network is something so valuable.
It takes away a little bit of that fear factor that you say, oh my God, I'm joining into this this huge thing. Is it too big for me? Is it not? Because at the end of the day, you go and speak to someone that has been through exactly what you're going through at the moment. And this is, again, conversation, that communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something the BIID does really well, actually. I think it is very inviting, and it is a great community. I mean, I literally emailed, I think earlier this week, Angela and the rest of the, like a bunch of people that I know in the BIID, and was like, oh my God, I need this supplier, like, who's got one? And I had a few replies, and like, you know, I'm already in contact with their suppliers. So, I mean, it's great.
It's a really nice way to do that. And it's not... It's supportive, it's not competitive, and it's great to see what other people are up to. Helps you keep an open mind about, new tools, etc. When we do the knowledge exchange, that was really fascinating. You know, for members only to come and actually say.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and to talk about, what's their issues are. Yeah, although I was on the regulations table. I mean, luckily I wasn't like the expert. It was a discussion, but yeah, it was.
Well, but you are.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I wasn't placed there as the expert. I was just, getting everyone to chat. Yeah, but it was great, and it was, it is reassuring when people are struggling with the new regulations and understanding what it means for their practice and their insurance, and how they go about making sure that they are making really sensible business decisions and doing right by their client, and the whole point of it, making their projects safe, which is what we all should be aiming for.
Yeah, it's always, especially with the new regulations, just protecting yourself, making the project safe, but also making sure that everything that you do, all the steps that you take, you are first of all safeguarding yourself. Yeah. From any faults or anything, that you're not taking on board something that is beyond your responsibilities.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, mea culpa, obviously, I did it. I don't know if any of you can fall into my so-called shoes, but I took on board responsibility of things and done things that weren't necessarily my responsibility, and I only did it for the client. In hindsight, obviously, I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, because it's.
Luckily enough, nothing went wrong, but when you start talking and advising and suggesting things that are you might know how things should be done, you might be right, but it's still not your responsibility. But you still and understanding that limit, that is not necessarily going against the client, and not wanting to make yourself feel unknowledgeable, or I don't even know if that's a word, but that you don't have the knowledge of that specific element, but it's just to say, this is not my field, let me speak to the experts.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the first things I teach our grads that come in. They're full of conceptual ideas, and then it comes to actually practicality of, doing something serious, and it's okay not to know. It's okay to say, I don't know, and I'll come back to you, and actually to be confident in saying, I don't know, is actually sometimes the best position to be in, because you're not limited, you're not exposing a business to risk, and it's how you do that, in a sensible way. Just like you said, it's like, I know the process, I don't know the answer, but this is how you get the answer, and that's valuable. That's what the client needs. And if it's a scope gap in a project, and they need a structural engineer, or they need someone else,
a fire assessor, whatever,
they need someone else, then you can use that network that we've all got to give the client what they need. And then when they don't take that advice, be strong enough to write a letter to tell them that they need to. And I think that those skills are, it is okay not to know.
I think it also puts the client in a better situation and position when you just say to them, I don't know, let me come back to you. Let me we might need this professional involved. Let me just see what I can do. Rather than just say, this is what needs to be done. And
yeah, exactly. I think, our clients can see through when, people are saying, it's definitely this, it's definitely that, blah, blah, blah. And they don't, I think clients will understand and will appreciate, if you say, I don't know, I need to check this, if you demonstrated that you've got enough knowledge to know when you need a specialist, then that's, that puts them, I would say, at ease, because they know that you're doing things correctly.
And I found out even on the most challenging project, sometimes they'll come around.
Yeah.
They just, if they really want to understand, and it's down to you as a professional, how do you really express yourself, and goes back to the communication elements, that if you are able to set boundaries and say, this is what I'm offering, this is what I can do, if you want something else, I can find that person that can assist and help.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's important as well to, you know, if it isn't the right fit, if a client is, you know, is clearly unhappy with the service, is not listening to your advice, or saying, you know, I want you to just do this, and you know that it's not per regulations, I think, you know, you have to say no. You do have to protect yourself, protect your business, protect your mental health. And also, you know, we've stepped away from projects in the past, and actually it's been so much better because, you know, it ended on good terms. We said, you know, we're really sorry, but this is clearly we're not the right fit for you. You know, let's just call this a day. You can pay us for what we've done. We will send you all the details. You can take it all, and then you can go to someone else. And they were happy. You know, they thanked us for our time, paid us. We all parted ways very happily. And that's so much better than, you know, keeping on, trying to get it right, trying to, well, argue with someone before you've even started on site. I mean, it's not going to get better once you're on site. So I think, you know, you need to have that confidence in yourself, and, you know when to say no as well. That is really important, especially for small business owners. Presumably it's a bit harder with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily cherry pick, but, you know, we're empowered, you know, where I work, to be like, look, you know, the projects are set up in a certain way. You know, scope creep is, you know, the bane of every designer's. You want to do a good job. You've got a great client. They're, you know, on good terms. And, you know, can you just is a favourite one of mine. I can just, but here's a project manager.
Just need to.
Here's a contract variation. Would you like me to continue to just?
Yeah.
And once you set those boundaries early, and they understand, and they see the value of adding that scope. But I think if, you know, you can do that upfront piece and have that conversation upfront, regardless if, you know, it's a £500,000 contract or a £5 million contract or more. It's just about having that open discussion and saying, look, we're the experts. This is what you've asked us to do, and we can do it that way. But as professionals, we think you should do it this way, and there might be some nuances in that. Might not necessarily cost them more, or it's just a slightly different way. And ultimately, we're the experts. We're saying, you know, this is our approach, and then they've got a choice then.
It's given them that flexibility in a way.
To, you know, to get that fit right and to make sure. But, you know, it can be hard, especially when you're in a competitive situation. You know, and
especially when you're being challenged by the client that might not be an expert. But I still want it.
Or they might be an expert.
What do you mean?
We've had some clients that have been experts in something.
Let's move on.
It's always worked out very well, actually. We're really lucky. We have excellent clients, and we have what we, you know, when it's not working out, we can say, and usually clients will, you know, turn around and say, actually, I appreciate what you've said and how you've explained it. You know, it might take a few goes, and that's fine. And the same for us, you know, they might say, I want this, and we've not delivered it. It might take a few goes. So overall, we're very lucky. I do love my clients. But it's tricky when, you know, if you have, we found with couples, actually, we always put in our contract, you know, if one person makes the decision, that's the decision from both of you. And then, you know, you get to the point where you're actually starting on site, and then the other person that you haven't heard from for 6 months is like, actually, I want to change everything. And you're like, okay, we can, but are you sure?
That's why I left residential design. I felt like the, you know, sort of adoptive child in between a couple, and, you know, I found that really challenging. I've got a lot of respect for residential designers.
I mean, it can be tricky, but then, you know, we set it out in the contract at the start. You know, one of you has made this decision. we can change it. You now have to pay for us to change it. It's very straightwood.
It's very
and then
clear,
it's,
yeah.
you know, we're not upset that they want to change it.
No, but that's late, isn't it? That is late change.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It doesn't
it,
bother me too much. I'm like,
Changes
okay, we'll
are-
change it. Fine. It's
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, sometimes I had clients that came back to me after several discussions, not necessarily argument, because arguments are pointless, but, you know, deep conversation and all relation to the project and all the ideas and so on and so forth. And if you're clear enough, they will come back to you and say, you know, Simona, or at least this is what happened to me. We know we've been challenging. We know that we've been very slow in coming back. And we also know that we've been putting pressure to get these things done. But we also recognize the limits that we imposed on the project. But all that comes after a long email from me to say, if you really wanted to do this, we need to follow this process at the end of the day. And if we don't, then we're in a situation where we are right now, where instead of progressing, we're basically just stuck for months and months. But as I said, they only after that email, they come back.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to communication, doesn't
Yeah.
it? If you communicate something clearly and calmly, you know,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you do have to take a step back
Yes.
and like, maybe I'll write this tomorrow morning once I've like chilled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, no, it's,
We can all laugh like,
we've all written that email and then thought, I'll send it tomorrow, and then
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
redacted it.
Yeah.
of course.
Sometimes I just do,
Yeah.
just acknowledging the email, I'm busy, but I'll come back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, which is
It's the easiest
completely
thing.
professional.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that it also sets the tone for, you know, I'm not ignoring
Yeah.
you.
You don't acknowledge
I'm
it.
just carefully thinking about, you know, what's the best way forward,
Yeah.
which is good for everyone. And I mean, it is really hard on residential because you are dealing with people's homes and they are emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And often, you know, it's the most money that they've spent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, they really want it to be right. And I can understand, you know,
Yeah.
when they get upset or they're concerned that it's not right. And, you know, there's always one thing on each project that a client will like get hung up on. And I can never predict it. It's totally different every time.
Oh, you don't have an office pool for what it would be for
Oh,
each
God, we
project?
should. Yeah, no. In fact, I had 2 earlier this week and they were completely like unexpected. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, I think it was bad weather on Monday. I think everyone was just, I don't know, the moon was in a funny place. But it's all resolved now and it's Wednesday, so it's all good.
Yeah. Another 2 days to go.
Yeah. What next?
But it's true. You never know. I mean, this is something that I really enjoy about the industry. Every project for me is just a complete different story. It's a really new chapter. You can't expect the same mistake that maybe, or the same errors that happen on project A to happen on project B. Project B might have something different from project C. And it's not even a learning process, because sometimes they can double up or they can be similar to something else that happened. So it's that element really of the being in construction that really I truly enjoy. I mean, I still sleep my 7.5 hours every night. I go to sleep relaxed. I wake up relaxed. Sometimes I dream about work, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I dream about construction sites occasionally. Just put the steel in the right place. Why is it there?
how do you wake up afterwards?
Quite calm, because I'm like, oh, thank God that was a dream. This is fine.
What happened to me when there's a challenging day, for example, I dream on of the solution.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know how that happened, but
That's good.
it doesn't wake me up at night. I wake up in the morning just relaxed, but I relive sort of through the day on
Yeah.
exactly how, you know, I ended up in that situation, let's say. How do I fix it? And yeah, that's how they say, just sleep over it.
Yeah, I mean, it is good once, you know, if you've calmed down, your body's like regulated, I think
Yeah.
you can approach, you know, problems or things to solve more calmly.
I think most things are fixable. It's just the
Yeah.
conversation around it's either going to cost more money or it's going to affect program.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you've kind of accepted that,
Yeah.
you know, most things are, you know, it's easy to get through it.
Mhm.
There is an end in sight. it's just, you know, which route you're going to take necessarily and which is the most palatable. But yeah, I've definitely had a few sleepless nights. I'm definitely not as calm as both of you.
I mean, it's hard, you know, a lot of, most people that are interior designers, well, I'd say almost everyone, really, you know, they just want to create something good. It is a service industry, you know, they want to serve, they want to, you know, design these beautiful spaces that serve the clients. And so, you know, if you do get an issue or something's wrong and you feel like you've done something wrong or someone else has done something wrong, you've not noticed or whatever, you know, it is, you feel it, you're like, oh God, no, like I wanted to deliver something amazing. So, you know, it can be stressful, but yeah, you just have to sort of, I guess, try and like actually calmly think about what steps you can take to fix it, and then, you know, just take those steps one at a time.
Talking about the construction industry in general, how do you see it? How have you seen it evolving since you both started, really? For better or for good? Let's start from there. No?
It's got
Another
a little
question?
bit more costly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is expensive. I think for us, you know, sort of commercially, you know, there's a lot more risk. You know, we see a lot of work taken away through D&B, and you know, we're talking about learning opportunities. You know, if someone's designing a concept, they're really good at it if they know how it will be detailed. And when clients go D&B on big commercial projects, actually, you know, my juniors don't get to detail anything. And so going to stage 4, you know, is a critical part of learning. So that's a challenge sometimes. We have to deal with it when a client decides that they want to go through that procurement route. You know, we have to think, right, well, it's not only loss of revenue, it's loss of a training opportunity. And don't get me wrong, D&B absolutely has its place in the industry, and it's, you know, it's a positive too, and sometimes that is the right choice for the client. But I'm always mindful when it's not traditional, you know, that we've got that loss of oversight of the original vision, and things can get watered down. And, you know, and it's, you know, we are passionate about it. We want to maintain control or have that design guardianship role on bigger projects. But it's interesting, you know, there's been a lot of construction companies that have gone bust over recent years, and you know, it is a risk, and you know, doing that due diligence about, you know, contractor interviews, etc., and making sure that your recommendations to the client are robust is something that, you know, is always at the back of my mind anyway. But I think we have to see construction as partners, and where we can bring back, you know, craft and all the, you know, traditional methods in line with sustainability, and rather throwing it up quick, you know, a combination of craft and, you know, sort of modular construction, quality modular construction, I think is the way forward. I think that's the future. And I think to some extent, you know, our design processes and, you know, don't necessarily, I haven't really caught up with all the new ways we do manufacture and construct. And I think there is a bit of a gap there. So, I mean, in the future, I'd like to see that gap close. But regulation in industry, it needs to catch up with the pace of evolution of the construction industry, I'd say. And designers need to have a voice in that. So that we can all work as partners together to deliver amazing buildings and their interiors in a sort of sustainable, adaptable future, so that they can be, you know, they can be there for a long time and adapted, without necessarily having to
tear it all down.
Yeah.
If you could leave, and I think that could be closing down, if you could leave everyone with an advice from your end to the future designers, what would it be?
Oh, to future designers. Oh God. I would say, I mean, obviously it depends on what stage of your journey into design you're at, but I would say just really focus on doing what you love as a starting point, and then getting really good at it. And everything that you do, just do it to the absolute best of your ability. And I would say that that's why I've got to where I have today. You know, any chance I got to do something, I did it. You know, I really put everything that I could into it, and I grasped every opportunity, and I, you know, sort of went with it. So as an example, when I started work, in my interview, Kat had asked me about social media marketing, whether I thought it was useful and how it might apply to the business. And so when I got the job, I didn't start for a month, and I did a social media marketing presentation. Then on my first day, I was like, I have this. Can I present it to you? Can we talk about it? And then she let me, within the first month, redo our website and all of our social media. So, you know, take opportunities, but also make them for yourself where you can. So go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with, you know, taking pride in small jobs and seeing the opportunity in them. I think, you know, you have to see yourself in, you know, how are you adding value to a business, and why do they want to employ you, and keeping your skills up to date. And, you know, there's so much available online that's free. You can supplement your areas of passion. If you do follow those areas of passion, you can't do anything but succeed in my mind. But I think it's, you know, taking that time just to step back and really absorb the industry, and, you know, and maybe, you know, take that detour if an opportunity arises. You never know where it might lead, and be quite open to a very flexible careers. And there's no rules. You can start on one path and then discover something you're really, really interested in, and then go down another path, and then maybe circle back. You know, there's no rules that you have to do this forever, and you can explore the industry in its sort of in its breadth, I think. But actually, you know, have a chat with yourself periodically and be like, am I still enjoying this?
Yeah.
And if the answer's no, then, you know, don't suffer. Like, be brave enough to make a change.
Yeah, that's a good way of ending this, I'd say. Well, Liz, Angela, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.